Princess Nera sat alone in her tower room, watching the twin suns set over the capital city of Velkara Prime. The golden light streamed through the tall windows, casting long shadows across the polished stone floor. She had watched this same sunset for 10 years now, always from the same chair, always alone. Her hover chair hummed softly as she moved closer to the window. Below, in the grand courtyard, preparations were underway for another bonding ceremony. Her younger brother Terran would bind himself to Lady Kessa of House Kryn tonight. There would be feasting, dancing, and celebration. Nera would not attend. No one expected her anymore. She touched the control panel on her chair's armrest, and it lifted her higher so she could see better. The Volcari people moved through the courtyard like graceful dancers. Their tall, elegant forms seemed to flow rather than walk. Each movement displayed the physical perfection her people prized above all else. Each gesture reminded her of what she had lost. The neural plague had come during her 15th year. She remembered the fever, the pain, and then the terrible stillness in her legs. The palace healers had tried everything. They used their biokinetic powers to repair the damage, but the plague had changed something fundamental in her nervous system. Her legs would never work again. Worse, her own biokinetic abilities had faded to almost nothing in Volcari culture. This made her less than whole. The ability to manipulate energy with one's mind was the mark of their superiority. It was what separated them from the lesser species of the galaxy. Without it, without the ability to stand and fight, she was considered broken, spiritually weak. A princess in name only. Her attendant, Mira, entered the room carrying a tray of food. The young woman's face was professionally neutral as she set the tray on the table. "Your evening meal, princess." "Thank you, Myra," Nera said, but the attendant was already leaving. She never stayed longer than necessary. None of them did. Nera ate mechanically, her mind elsewhere. She had spent the day working on mathematical models again. It was the one thing that still brought her joy. While her body had failed her, her mind remained sharp. She could see patterns in numbers that others missed. She could calculate trajectories and probabilities that would take military computers hours to process. But no one asked for her input anymore. No one wanted a cripple's advice. A commotion in the courtyard drew her attention. A spacecraft was descending, but not with the usual grace of Velcari vessels. This ship wobbled and corrected its path several times. The design was unfamiliar, boxy and practical rather than elegant. It bore markings she recognized from intelligence briefings. Terran, Confederation. The humans had arrived. Nera had read about humans with fascination. They were a young species, barely into their 3rd century of space travel. They were weak by Velcari standards, short-lived and fragile. Yet they had expanded rapidly, making alliances and establishing trade routes with surprising efficiency. The High Council had finally agreed to meet with them, though many considered it beneath their dignity. The Terran ship landed clumsily in the designated area. Velcaran nobles watched with barely concealed amusement. Nera saw her mother, High Matriarch Velora, standing on the grand balcony with her arms crossed. Even from this distance, Nera could read the disapproval in her posture. The ship's door opened, and the Terran delegation emerged. They were indeed small compared to the Velcari, but they moved with a different kind of confidence. They wore matching dark blue uniforms with various insignia. At the front walked a woman with short black hair and sharp eyes. She carried herself like a leader despite her size. Behind the main delegation, Nera noticed a young man in a different uniform, lighter gray with grease stains on the sleeves. He carried a toolkit and seemed more interested in examining the landing pad than the grand palace before him. His dark hair fell across his forehead as he knelt to inspect something on the ground. The formal reception began in the courtyard. Nera watched as her mother greeted the Terran ambassador with cold politeness. The translator drones buzzed between them, converting languages in real time. Speeches were made. Gifts were exchanged. All very proper and thoroughly boring. Then something unexpected happened. The discussion turned to trade routes and strategic partnerships. The Terran ambassador asked about Velkari military tactics. General Terran began explaining their philosophy of overwhelming force and biokinetic superiority. Nera saw the flaw in his explanation immediately. He was describing outdated doctrine from 40 years ago. The current Kryn Dominion used completely different strategies now. She knew because she had studied every battle report she could access from her tower room. Without thinking, she activated her chair's communication system and connected to the courtyard's public channel. General, respectfully, that doctrine hasn't been effective against Kryn forces since the Battle of Helion Rift. Silence fell across the courtyard. Every face turned upward toward her tower window. She saw shock, embarrassment, and then cold anger on her mother's face. General Terran's voice came through the speaker, dripping with contempt. Princess Nera, this discussion is not appropriate for someone of your condition. Please disconnect. Heat rushed to Nera's face. She should have known better. She disconnected and pulled back from the window, her hand shaking. Stupid. So stupid to think anyone would want her opinion. But as she retreated into her room, she caught sight of one person who hadn't looked away in embarrassment. The young Terran man with the grease-stained uniform stood in the courtyard, looking directly at her tower window. And then he did something no one had done in years. He nodded to her, not with pity or awkwardness, just a simple nod of acknowledgement, as if what she had said mattered. Nera sat in the darkness of her room long after the suns had set, thinking about that nod. 3 days after the reception, Nera was reviewing trade documents in her room when a loud mechanical screech shattered the afternoon quiet. She moved to her window and saw a Terran shuttle spinning in erratic circles above the palace gardens. Smoke trailed from one of its engines. The shuttle dropped fast, but the pilot managed to guide it away from the main buildings. It crashed into the ornamental garden below her tower, crushing a row of silver flower beds and coming to rest at an angle against a decorative fountain. Alarms blared throughout the palace. Guards rushed toward the crash site. Nara watched a figure climb out of the damaged shuttle, coughing and waving away smoke. It was the young Terran man from the reception, the one with the grease-stained uniform. Palace security surrounded him within moments, weapons drawn. He raised his hands, speaking quickly. Nara couldn't hear the words, but she saw him pointing at his shuttle and making placating gestures. After tense moments, the guards lowered their weapons slightly. Then something strange happened. Instead of being escorted away, the young man opened his toolkit and began examining the damaged shuttle. The guards looked confused but didn't stop him. Nara's curiosity overwhelmed her caution. She activated her hover chair and made her way through the palace corridors. Most of them were empty at this hour, which suited her fine. She took the service elevator down to the garden level, a route the servants used. No one saw her leave the tower. The garden entrance brought her out near the crash site. The guards had established a perimeter, but were more focused on the shuttle than on watching for approaching princesses. She maneuvered her chair quietly through the damaged flower beds until she was close enough to see what the Terran was doing. He had opened several access panels and was elbow deep in the shuttle's internal systems. Tools lay scattered on the ground around him. He muttered to himself in his own language, words the translator implant in Nera's ear rendered as technical specifications and mild curses. The power coupling should not have failed like that, Nera said. The young man jumped, hitting his head on the inside of the panel. He extracted himself quickly and turned to face her, rubbing his scalp. Up close, she could see he was perhaps in his mid-20s by Terran standards. His face was smudged with soot, and his dark eyes were sharp with intelligence. "You're the princess from the tower," he said. "The one who corrected the general. I am Nara, and you should not be in this garden. Neither should my shuttle. But here we are." He smiled, and it was genuine, not the careful diplomatic expressions she usually saw. "I'm Jiho, maintenance technician for the Terran delegation. Why did your shuttle crash?" "That's what I'm trying to figure out." He gestured at the open panels. "The power coupling failed, but these systems have triple redundancy. All 3 backups failed simultaneously. That's statistically impossible unless someone wanted it to happen." Nara's mind immediately began calculating probabilities. "Show me the coupling assembly." Jiho hesitated for only a moment before stepping aside. Nara maneuvered her chair closer and examined the charred components. Her limited biokinetic sense, weak as it was, detected residual energy patterns that seemed wrong. "There," she pointed. "That scoring pattern. It's not from overload. Someone used a biokinetic pulse to fry the systems from the inside." Jiho pulled out a scanner and examined the area she indicated. His eyebrows rose. "You're right. This was deliberate sabotage." He looked at her with new respect. "How did you see that?" "Mathematics," Nara said. "The burn patterns follow a logarithmic curve inconsistent with electrical failure. And I can still sense energy residue, even if I cannot manipulate it myself." "Cannot manipulate it yourself?" Jiho looked confused. "I thought all Valkyrie had those powers." "I did once. I was in an accident." She kept her voice neutral, clinical. "The neural plague damaged my spine and central nervous system. I lost the use of my legs and most of my biokinetic abilities." She waited for the usual reactions: pity, discomfort, the subtle drawing away. Instead, Jiho nodded thoughtfully and sat down on the ground beside her chair, apparently unconcerned about the dirt. "I lost my legs too," he said. "Mining accident on Mars when I was 19. Tunnel collapse." Nara stared at him. He was sitting right there on the ground, legs stretched out in front of him. "But you are walking. Prosthetics." He rapped his knuckles against his shin, producing a hollow metallic sound. "From the knees down, I'm mostly titanium and synthetic nerves. Took me a year to learn to walk again, another year to get good at it. Now I barely notice them." "Your people do not see this as weakness?" Jiho laughed, though not unkindly. "Weakness? I can kick through a steel door now if I need to. My legs don't get tired. I don't get foot cramps. Some people think I'm lucky." He paused. "Okay, most people don't think I'm lucky, but they don't treat me like I'm broken. Just different." Nara had never heard anyone speak about disability this way. In Valkyrie culture, such conditions were shameful. To be accommodated, perhaps, but never celebrated or seen as neutral. "Why would someone sabotage your shuttle?" she asked, changing the subject. "Someone who doesn't want the Terran delegation here," Jiho said. "Someone who wants us to look incompetent or weak." "Did you notice it crash right where everyone could see it?" Yes. Nara's mind was already working through the political implications. And if a Terran dies on Valkyrie soil during a diplomatic mission, it creates an incident. Relations suffer. Trade negotiations fail. Exactly. Jiho started gathering his tools. "I need to report this to Ambassador Soman." "Wait," Nara made a decision. "If you report this now, the palace security will investigate. They will be thorough but slow. By the time they identify the saboteur, your delegation will have returned home. Nothing will be resolved. What do you suggest?" "I have access to palace security records. I have time and motivation. Let me investigate quietly while you repair your shuttle. When we have proof, then we report it." Jiho studied her face. "Why would you help me?" "Because I am very bored," Nara said honestly. and because someone tried to sabotage peace talks in my home. That offends me. Also, she added more quietly, you are the first person in years who has spoken to me like I am a person and not a tragic mistake. Jiho smiled and extended his hand. Partners then? Nara had seen Terrans do this gesture in videos. She clasped his hand. His grip was warm and firm. Partners, she agreed. Over the next week, they met regularly in the gardens. Jiho worked on repairing his shuttle while Nara accessed security records and analyzed data patterns. They talked while they worked, sharing stories about their worlds. Jiho described Earth, a planet of vast oceans and crowded cities. He told her about Mars, where he had worked in the underground mining colonies. He explained Terran technology and philosophy. Nara told him about Valkyrie military history, about the mathematical beauty of orbital mechanics, about the loneliness of her tower. They found the saboteur on the 6th day, a junior diplomat from House Kryn, trying to disrupt the alliance between Terrans and Valkyrie. Nara compiled the evidence while Jiho verified the technical details done. But when Nara prepared to send the report to the High Council, Jiho stopped her. Before we do this, he said, I need to ask you something. Something personal? Nara looked at him curiously. They had grown comfortable with each other over the past week, but his tone now was serious, almost nervous. I've been learning about Valkyrie culture, Jiho continued. About bonding ceremonies. Oh. Nara felt her chest tighten. This was where he would ask about her brother or another noble. Perhaps he needed a cultural guide. Nara, Jiho said, looking directly into her eyes. Will you bond with me? Nara's hover chair jerked backward as if she had been physically struck. For several long moments, she could only stare at Jiho, her mouth open but no words coming out. You cannot be serious, she finally managed. I'm completely serious. Jiho remained sitting on the ground, looking up at her with steady eyes. I've thought about this carefully. You have known me for 1 week. I've spent more meaningful time with you this week than I've spent with anyone in the past year, Jiho said. We work well together. We think well together. Isn't that what bonding is supposed to be about? Nara felt anger rising, hot and sharp. Is this pity? Do you think the poor broken princess needs rescuing? No. Jiho's voice was firm. This is respect. This is recognizing that I found someone whose mind challenges mine, whose company I enjoy, and who I want as a permanent partner. You do not understand what you are asking. Nara's hands gripped the armrests of her chair until her knuckles turned pale. Valkyrie bonding is not like Terran marriage. It is permanent. It cannot be broken except by death. It binds families, combines resources, creates political alliances. I know. I've been reading about it. Then you know that I have nothing to offer you. The words tasted bitter. I cannot give you enhanced offspring. I cannot boost your biokinetic abilities because I have none to share. I cannot provide military alliance or political power. I am worth nothing in Valkyrie terms. Good thing I'm not Valkyrie then. Jiho stood up, brushing dirt from his pants. Let me tell you what I see. I see a brilliant strategist who spotted sabotage I missed. I see a mathematician who can calculate in her head what takes our computers minutes to process. I see someone who spent a week helping a stranger because it was the right thing to do. That is not enough for a bond. It is for me. Jiho moved closer to her chair. Nara, I'm not asking you to be something you're not. I'm asking you to be exactly who you are, but as my partner. We could do amazing work together. The Terran Confederation needs people who understand both Terran and Valkyrie culture. We need bridge builders. Your people would never accept it. A Terran bonding with a disabled alien princess? It would be a scandal. Some of them, sure. But humans are good at adapting to scandals. We had a one-armed woman as Secretary General 20 years ago. We have senators who use wheelchairs. We have ambassadors with prosthetic eyes. We don't define people by what they can't do. Nara wanted to believe him. She wanted it so badly that it terrified her. And my people? They would see this as an insult. My mother would never allow it. Your mother can't stop you. You're of age. Valkyrie law says any royal can initiate a bonding request. I checked. You checked the law? I told you. I thought about this carefully. Nara's mind raced through possibilities and consequences. If she accepted, the scandal would be enormous. Her mother would be furious. The High Council would debate it endlessly. But Jiho was right about one thing. Legally, they could not stop her. Why? She asked quietly. Why would you do this? Jiho sat down on a nearby bench, bringing himself to her eye level. When I lost my legs, I went through a dark time. I thought my life was over. I thought no one would ever see me as whole again. Then I met an engineer named Hana who had lost her hearing in the same accident. She told me something I never forgot. He paused, remembering. She said, "The body is just the machine we ride in. What matters is the driver. You're an incredible driver, Nara. Your machine has some damage, sure. But so does everyone's eventually. What matters is what you do with it." That is very philosophical for a mechanic. We have a lot of time to think while we fix things. He smiled. Look, I'm not going to pressure you. If you say no, we're still friends. We'll still expose the saboteur together. But I wanted you to know that someone sees your value. Someone wants to partner with you, not in spite of who you are, but because of who you are. Before Nara could respond, her chair's communication system chimed. It was Mira, her attendant. Princess, your mother requires your presence in the throne room immediately. Nara and Jiho exchanged glances. I have to go, she said. I'll send the sabotage report to Ambassador Soman, Jiho said. Whatever happens next, at least we solved that mystery. Nara navigated through the palace corridors with her mind churning. Jiho's proposal kept echoing in her thoughts. Will you bond with me? No one had asked her that in 10 years. No one had seen her as worthy of asking. When she entered the throne room, she found it full of people. Her mother sat on the central throne, looking more angry than Nara had ever seen her. General Terran stood to one side, his face red. Ambassador Soman was there too, along with several other Terran and Valkyrie officials. Nara, her mother said, her voice cold and controlled. I have just received a very disturbing report. Is it true that you have been meeting secretly with a Terran technician? We have been investigating the shuttle crash together, yes. The crash that you failed to report to Palace Security, General Terran interjected. Do you realize that you potentially compromised a criminal investigation? The crash that was sabotage, Nara said calmly, by a member of House Kryn trying to disrupt the diplomatic mission. We have full documentation and evidence. That created a stir among the assembled officials. Ambassador Soman stepped forward. The evidence is compelling, High Matriarch. My technician and your daughter did excellent work. That is not the point, Valora said. The point is that my daughter, a princess of the royal house, has been conducting herself inappropriately with a foreign civilian. We were investigating a crime, Naira said. You were forming an attachment, her mother countered. Word has spread throughout the palace. There are rumors, embarrassing rumors about my disabled daughter throwing herself at a Terran commoner. The words hit Nara like physical blows. Heat rushed to her face, shame and anger mixing together. Your daughter did nothing wrong, Ambassador Soman said firmly. She helped prevent a diplomatic incident. She has created one instead. Valora stood, tall and imposing. This ends now. Nara, you will return to your tower and cease all contact with the Terran delegation. Ambassador, your technician will be confined to your embassy ship for the remainder of your stay. No, Nara said. The room went silent. Everyone stared at her. No one said no to the High Matriarch. What did you say? Valora's voice was dangerously quiet. I said no, Mother. Nara felt her heart pounding, but she kept her voice steady. I am of legal age. I am a princess of the royal blood, and I hereby formally announce my intention to bond with Jiho of Earth Terran Confederation. The throne room erupted in chaos. Officials shouted. General Taram looked apoplectic. Ambassador Selman appeared shocked. And High Matriarch Valora went very, very still. You will do no such thing, Valora said when the noise died down. I have the right under Valkyrie law. Article 15 of the Royal Bonding Codes. Any royal of age may initiate a bonding request with any willing partner of legal status from any recognized civilization. The Terran Confederation is recognized. This is madness, General Taram sputtered. A bond between a broken princess and a farm mechanic? It would be a humiliation for the entire royal house. Then you should have treated me better when I was whole, Nara said quietly. Maybe then I would care more about your humiliation. She turned her chair and left the throne room, ignoring her mother's calls to return. She had made her choice. For 3 days, Nara remained confined to her tower while the High Council debated. Jiho was restricted to the Terran embassy ship. They could send messages to each other, but all communication was monitored. Every message was brief and carefully worded. Still want to bond with the scandal of the century? Nara wrote. Absolutely, Jiho replied. You're much more interesting than a quiet life. On the 4th day, alarms began blaring throughout the palace. Nara rushed to her window and saw military vessels launching from the defense platforms. Emergency broadcasts filled every channel. The Kryn Dominion had launched a surprise attack on border station Talvik. Nara immediately accessed the military network from her room. Her royal credentials still gave her access, even if no one wanted her opinions. She pulled up tactical displays and fleet positions. The situation was bad. Station Talvik guarded a critical jump point. If it fell, Kryn forces would have a direct path to 3 populated systems. The Valkyrie war fleet was dispersed for training exercises and would take days to assemble. The station's defenders were outnumbered 5-1. High Command was in chaos. She watched the command channel feed as generals argued about response strategies. They proposed recalling the fleet, abandoning the station, or attempting a desperate counterattack with insufficient forces. Every option meant heavy casualties. Nara had been studying Kryn military tactics for years. She knew their patterns, their preferences, their weaknesses. She had developed contingency plans, mathematical models of optimal defensive strategies. No one had ever asked to see them. She made a decision, activating her hover chair. She left her tower and headed for the War Council chambers. Guards tried to stop her, but she invoked her right as a royal to attend military councils during emergencies. They reluctantly let her pass. The War Council chamber was pandemonium when she entered. Holographic displays showed the battle unfolding in real time. Kryn warships pounded the station's shields. Casualties were mounting. Princess Nara, General Taram said coldly when he noticed her. This is not an appropriate place for you. I have a tactical solution, Nara said, maneuvering her chair to the central display table. We do not have time for amateurs, General Taram snapped. Then you should start listening to professionals, Nara replied. She activated her data tablet and projected her analysis onto the main screen. The Kryn are using Formation Delta 7. They always use Delta 7 for station assaults because it maximizes their numerical advantage. We know their formation, another general said impatiently. That doesn't help us. It does if you understand their blind spots. Nara highlighted sections of her tactical map. Delta 7 concentrates firepower forward, but leaves weak points at these 3 vectors. They assume defenders will try to fight through the main force. Instead, we should use minimal forces to engage directly, while positioning our real strength here, and here. That would require splitting our already inadequate forces, General Terran objected. It would require precise coordination and unconventional thinking, Nara corrected. She pulled up more data. I've run the calculations. With current available ships, this approach gives us a 63% chance of holding the station versus the 8% chance of your current direct assault plan. These numbers are fantasy, General Terran said. What does one who cannot stand know of standing against enemies? Before Nara could respond, a new voice spoke from the chamber entrance. She knows more than you, apparently. Everyone turned to see Ambassador Soman entering, with Jiho beside her. High Matriarch Valora granted us emergency access to this council, Soman said. When we heard about Princess Nara's tactical plan. How did you hear about it? Nara asked. Jiho held up his datapad. You forgot you gave me access to your research files last week. I've been reading your tactical studies. They're brilliant. Ambassador Soman approached the display table. The Terran Confederation offers computational support and real-time coordination assistance. If you implement Princess Nara's strategy, our battle computers can handle the precision timing required. We do not need Terran help, General Terran said. You need someone's help, Soman replied. Your station is about to fall. Pride won't stop that. An alert flashed on the main display. Station Talvik shields were failing. Another hour, maybe 2, and it will be destroyed. High Matriarch Valora entered the chamber, moving swiftly to the command position. She studied the tactical displays in silence. Everyone waited. Explain your plan, Nara, Valora said finally. Nara walked everyone through her strategy step by step. She showed them the mathematical models, the predicted Kryn responses, the optimal ship positions. Jiho added technical specifications about Terran coordination systems that could link Valkyrie vessels for unprecedented precision. This is highly unconventional, Admiral Narration said. But his tone was thoughtful rather than dismissive. But mathematically sound. The coordination requirements are extreme, though. We can handle the coordination, Ambassador Soman assured him. Our combat computers are designed for multi-fleet operations. Valora looked at the casualty projections. The traditional assault plan showed hundreds of expected deaths. Nara's plan showed dozens. Implemented, Valora ordered. General Terran looked like he had swallowed something sour. High Matriarch, to take orders from a princess of the royal blood who has demonstrated superior tactical analysis? Valora cut him off. Yes, General. That is exactly what you will do. Now move. The War Council erupted into coordinated action. Ships were redirected. Terran computer systems linked with Valkyrie command networks. Nara sat at the central console, calling out timing sequences, while Jiho managed the technical integration. They worked together seamlessly. When Nara identified targets, Jiho optimized firing solutions. When Terran systems needed translation, Nara provided context. They functioned as a single unit. The battle unfolded exactly as Nara had predicted. Kryn forces concentrated on what they thought was the main Valkyrie defense. Meanwhile, 3 strike groups appeared at the predicted weak points. The Kryn formation collapsed under precise, coordinated assault. Within 2 hours, 3 Kryn command ships had surrendered. The remaining enemy forces retreated. Station Talvik was secure. The War Council chamber erupted in cheers. Officers congratulated each other. But Nara noticed that while everyone celebrated the victory, few looked in her direction. General Terran was already rewriting the narrative. "Excellent execution of standard defensive protocols," he announced to the command staff. "Thanks to our superior training and discipline." "That's not what happened," Jiho said loudly. "The Terran observer should return to his ship." General Terran said dismissively. "The Terran observer saved your station," Ambassador Soman said sharply. "Along with Princess Nara, a fact I will be reporting to my government and the Galactic News Network. You will do no such thing." General Terran blustered. "Watch me." Soman was already recording a message. Within minutes, she had transmitted the complete tactical logs, with timestamps showing exactly who had proposed and implemented the winning strategy. The truth spread across multiple star systems within hours. By evening, Nara's face was on news broadcasts throughout the galaxy. "The Forgotten Princess Who Saved Her People," read one headline. "Disabled Royal Demonstrates Superior Tactical Mind," read another. The High Council could no longer deny what had happened. Public opinion shifted dramatically. Suddenly, everyone wanted to know why such a brilliant strategist had been locked away in a tower for 10 years. That evening, Valora came to Nara's room. It was the first time her mother had visited in 2 years. "You have placed the council in a difficult position," Valora said. "I saved 300 lives and a strategic military installation," Nara replied. "If that creates difficulties, perhaps the council needs to examine its priorities." Valora was silent for a moment. "The council has decided to approve your bonding request." Nara felt her breath catch. "Truly? We have little choice. Public sentiment supports you. The Terran Confederation has made it clear they see this as a test of our good faith, and..." Valora paused. "You have demonstrated value that we failed to recognize." "That is not exactly a warm endorsement, Mother." "I am not warm, daughter. I am practical. Your bond will proceed with full ceremonial honors." Valora moved toward the door, then stopped. "Perhaps I underestimated what you could accomplish. It is a mistake I will not repeat." After her mother left, Nara received a message from Jiho. "I heard the news. Still want to bond with a scandalous Terran mechanic." Nara smiled as she typed her response. "More than ever." The next lunar cycle passed in a blur of preparations. Nara had expected a quiet, private ceremony. Instead, the High Council declared it would be a full royal bonding, complete with all traditional ceremonies. Politics demanded a spectacle. "They want to show they're progressive," Jiho explained during one of their planning meetings. "Accepting of differences, embracing new alliances. It makes them look good." "I do not care why they do it," Nara said, "as long as they let us proceed." The ceremony itself would blend Velkari and Terran traditions. This had never been done before, which meant heated debates between cultural advisors from both civilizations. Nara found the whole process exhausting, but Jiho seemed to enjoy the chaos. "On Earth, we have a saying," he told her. "If the ceremony planning doesn't almost cause a war, you're not doing it right." The night before the bonding, Nara sat alone in her tower room, feeling strangely nervous. Tomorrow her entire life would change. She would leave this tower permanently. She would be bonded to Jiho, connected to him in ways that Velkari law considered sacred and unbreakable. A small voice in her mind whispered doubts. What if this was a mistake? What if Jiho changed his mind? What if she disappointed him once the novelty wore off? A knock on her door interrupted her spiral of worries. She opened it to find her younger brother Theron standing in the hallway. "May I come in?" he asked. Nara was surprised. Theron had barely spoken to her since his own bonding ceremony. She gestured him inside. "I wanted to apologize," Theron said without preamble. "I should have visited you more. I should have stood up for you when others spoke poorly of you. I was a coward. You were busy building your own life, Nara said, though the words still hurt to remember. That's not an excuse. Terran sat on the edge of her bed. I watched what happened with the Kryn attack. I saw how brilliant you were, and I realized that I've been seeing you the way everyone else did, as broken. But you were never broken. We just stopped looking. Why are you telling me this now? Because tomorrow you're leaving, and I wanted you to know that I'm proud of you. And I'm sorry I wasn't a better brother. Nara felt tears prickling her eyes. Thank you, she whispered. After Terran left, Nara slept better than she had in years. The bonding ceremony took place in the Grand Hall under the light of both suns. The massive chamber was packed with dignitaries from across the galaxy. Valkyrie nobles in their flowing robes mixed with Terran diplomats in crisp uniforms. News crews from a dozen civilizations recorded everything. Nara wore modified royal armor, elegant and ceremonial. The armor's design accommodated her hover chair, turning the chair itself into part of the ceremonial outfit. Valkyrie craftspeople had worked for weeks to create something that honored both tradition and her reality. HFY wore a Terran diplomatic uniform with Valkyriana marks embroidered on the shoulders. He looked nervous but determined when she saw him waiting at the ceremonial platform. The ceremony began with traditional Valkyrie rituals. High Matriarch Valora spoke the ancient words about unity and strength. Then Ambassador Selman added Terran elements, speaking about choice and partnership. When it came time for the vows, HFY was supposed to recite the traditional Valkyrie pledge. I bind myself to you in strength, that our unity may be unbreakable. Instead, he paused and looked directly at Nara. I've been thinking about those words, he said to the assembled crowd. Strength and unity is good, but I think humans would say something different. He turned back to Nara and spoke clearly. I bind myself to you in difference, that our diversity may make us stronger. Where you are strong, I will learn. Where I am strong, I will teach. Where we are both weak, we will find new paths together. A murmur ran through the crowd. This was not the traditional vow. Some Valkyrie looked offended. Others looked thoughtful. Nara felt her heart swell. She reached for HFY's hand and spoke her own modified vow. I accept your bond in diversity. I offer you my mind, my loyalty, and my partnership. Together we will prove that strength comes in many forms. The ceremonial master looked uncertain about whether these modified vows were acceptable. High Matriarch Valora leaned forward on her throne and said firmly, I accept these vows as binding. What happened next shocked everyone, including Nara herself. As the ceremonial master began the final blessing, Nara felt something stirring inside her. The biokinetic sense she thought she had lost began to awaken, but it felt different than before, more refined and precise. Energy patterns began to swirl around her and HFY. They were visible to everyone in the hall, glowing ribbons of light in colors no one had seen before. The patterns were unlike traditional Valkyrie biokinetic displays. They were complex, mathematical, beautiful in their precision. Gasps and exclamations filled the hall. Several Valkyrie nobles stood in shock. This was impossible. Everyone knew Nara had lost her powers. HFY squeezed her hand. What's happening? I don't know, Nara breathed. She could feel the energy responding to her thoughts, but not in the old way. It wasn't raw power. It was like conducting an orchestra, finding harmony in complexity. An ancient Valkyrie scholar pushed forward from the crowd. This is the pattern weaving, she said in an awed voice. It has not been seen in 1,000 years. What is pattern weaving? Ambassador Soman asked. A lost art, the scholar explained. Before we focused on raw biokinetic power, some Valkyrie could manipulate energy through mathematical precision rather than force. It requires a different kind of mind, one that sees patterns within patterns. It was considered the highest form of our abilities, but the technique was lost. It was not lost, Lara said quietly, understanding flooding through her. It was bred out. When we started selecting for raw power, we stopped producing minds that could see the patterns. The energy display gradually faded, leaving everyone staring. The ceremonial master cleared his throat and completed the blessing, though his voice shook slightly. "The bond is sealed," he announced. Princess Nara and Technician Jiho are united under Valkyrie law and Terran custom. The celebration that followed was massive. But Nara noticed that people approached her differently now. Not with pity or condescension, but with respect and curiosity. Some even seemed afraid of her, which she found darkly amusing. 6 months later, Nara and Jiho stood in their joint laboratory, a facility dedicated to cross-cultural research and development. The space combined Valkyrie elegance with Terran practicality. Large windows overlooked both the palace and the Terran embassy. Ambassador Soman visited them with a proposal. "The Galactic Council wants to establish an academy," she explained. "A place for unconventional thinkers, for people whose abilities don't fit traditional molds. They want you two to help design it." Nara and Jiho exchanged glances. They had discussed this possibility many times. "We're interested," Jiho said. "Very interested," Nara added. "But we have conditions, such as?" "The academy must be truly accessible," Nara said. "Not just in theory, but in practice. Every species needs accommodated, every learning style respected, and it needs to focus on collaboration, not competition," Jiho added. "The best solutions come from diverse minds working together." "I think that can be arranged," Soman said with a smile, after the ambassador left. Nara worked on calibrating a new sensor array, while Jiho assembled the physical components. They had fallen into an easy rhythm of partnership. Sometimes they talked while they worked. Sometimes they enjoyed comfortable silence. A chime at the door interrupted them. Nara looked up to see a young Valkyrie woman in the entrance, maybe 16 years old. She used a walking stick and moved with an uneven gait. "Princess Nara?" the girl asked nervously. "My name is Lisa. I'm your cousin, from the lower branch of House Valkyrie." "Come in, Lisa," Nara said warmly. She recognized this girl from family records. Born with a degenerative muscle condition, largely kept out of public view. "I heard what you did," Lisa said. "At the Kryn attack. And at your bonding. I saw the pattern weaving." She paused, then said in a rush, "I want to learn. Everyone says I'm useless, but I'm good at mathematics. I see patterns. I just thought, maybe you could teach me?" Nara felt something shift in her chest. This was why she and Jiho were building the academy. For people like Lisa, like themselves. People who didn't fit traditional molds, but had value anyway. "What do you want to achieve?" Nara asked. Lisa looked surprised by the question. Probably. No one had asked her before. "I want to matter," Lisa said quietly. "I want to prove that I'm more than my disability." "Then you've come to the right place," Jiho said, pulling up a stool for their visitor. "Fair warning, though. Princess Nara is a demanding teacher." "I can learn," Lisa said eagerly. Nara smiled and activated a holographic display. "Let's start with pattern recognition. Look at these energy signatures and tell me what you see." As Lisa studied the display with fierce concentration, Nara caught Jiho's eye. He smiled at her, and she smiled back. This was just the beginning. The academy would help hundreds like Lisa. They would prove that diversity was strength. That different minds brought different solutions. That disability didn't mean inability. The overlooked princess and the Terran mechanic had found each other against all odds. Now they would help others find their own paths. Outside the laboratory windows, the twin suns set over Volcara Prime, painting the sky in shades of gold and amber.